Hi, Nikki. My name is Ellen, and I'll be correcting these essays for you. I'm happy to see that you've begun writing the essays that are part of your course. Great. Let's take a look at and see what you've done in this set. First essay we have is about schools and if they should be more entertaining, so let's see what you said. Learning has various methods and approaches to deliver to its students. Many young people believe that education should be delivered entertainingly and engagingly, while others still stick to more conventional ways of learning. I believe that educators should insert entertainment into their methods of learning rather than making it a more serious and boring approach. All right, so this is fine. Yes, it's fine. Why don't we move on? Your position is clear. They should insert entertainment. Yeah, it's clear. So why don't we continue on with your next paragraph? There are numerous reasons to support my stance. Firstly, the mode of learning in most European schools delivers interactive learning, which helps promote the increased participation of students. This is because many young students enjoy using technology like iPad and computers. This is because boring classes could result into boredom and decreased attention span of elementary students in the UK. Research shows that it improves student performance and increases their intelligence. All right, so did you notice the way I read this? I read it like one enormous sentence. And the reason I did that is because it is one enormous sentence. There's no punctuation here, Nikki, at all. So you really needed to break this down into smaller sentences. Another thing that I want to point out to you is that your body paragraphs are pretty much the same size as your introduction. So as an examiner, just looking at this kind of raises an alarm for me. And what do I mean? I mean that it makes me think either you've included too much information in your introduction or you've not included enough information in your body paragraphs, or both. I'm not sure which one is the case here yet. I do suspect that you really needed to include more information in this body paragraph. But the first thing I want to do is I want to fix the grammar of it, and punctuation is part of the grammar, and then we can look at what else could have changed. So there are numerous reasons to support my stance. Okay, rather than just calling it your stance, why don't you say there are numerous reasons in support of entertainment, more entertainment in schools. That would have been a better way to do this, okay? Just reintroduce your stance, reintroduce what it is you're talking about. Full stop. And then you don't need to capitalize mode. Firstly, the mode of learning in most European schools, I wouldn't say delivers, but how about is interactive, which helps promote the increased participation of students. Full stop. This is because many young students enjoy using technology like iPads and computers. Full stop. This is because boring classes could result in boredom and decrease attention span of elementary students in the UK. Research shows it improves student performance and increases their intelligence. Okay, so let's talk about this paragraph. You talked about interactive learning, but what is this essay asking you to talk about? Is it asking you to talk about interactive learning? Not exactly. It's asking you about entertainment. Okay, so in this way, what IELTS is doing is they are indirectly checking your vocabulary. Okay, so they want to make sure you understand what is meant by entertaining. Entertaining means funny, amusing, lighthearted, joyful, joyous, all these things that make us laugh. So, is that the same thing as interactive? I would argue with you, no. Something can be interactive, but it doesn't give you this feeling of joy, this feeling of amusement. Okay? So you need to be careful with this. These are things that a lot of students writing this essay have a problem with. You can talk about interactive learning, but only as far as it talks about amusement and entertainment. okay? I thought that there were some flaws in the progression of your ideas. I would like to see you using the template, especially at this point in your preparation. The template is your guide to help you to make sure you're on topic, to make sure you're structuring your essays appropriately. So use it, okay? And then as you start to feel more comfortable and gain some confidence, you can, alter it a little bit. But at this point, I'd really like to see you using it. So I also saw that there was a lot of repetition. You talked about interactive learning. It has increased participation. It's because kids like technology like iPads. That's because boring classes could result in boredom. Well, I mean, that to me was really very repetitive. So I would like to see some new vocabulary and some new ideas that are maybe a little more fleshed out, ideas that are a little more developed. Okay? So I want to move on. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So, however, many people still believe that education should be delivered more seriously and conventionally. Learning needs discipline for this to be effective. Full stop. A study from Harvard, A study from Harvard University shows that the more serious a lecture is, the higher the score of the students on their aptitude test for high school. Consequently, students need to focus on studying rather than adding unnecessary lectures in class. Okay. What are the unnecessary lectures? Is that this inclusion of entertainment? That's not really clear to me. Let's see. Again, I thought you needed to develop more. It's a rather short paragraph. You've got about 3 sentences in it, so you absolutely need to do more than this. Okay, we'll talk about it in a minute. To conclude from the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that studying doesn't need to be boring. Full stop. Instead, the educators should add more entertainment, such as adding technology for a student to participate and retain knowledge by using interactive methods to their teaching. In the future, with a lower F, having interactive learning not only promotes learning, but also mere entertainment to the students. Okay, again, I already explained that I don't necessarily agree with this use of interactive as a synonym for entertaining. I explained why. So there are a handful of things that I want to talk about. Starting with your introduction, you told us that you believe educators should, I wouldn't have used the word insert, I would have said included. So they should include entertainment into their methods. Okay. And then you say that you're going to analyze both approaches. So my first question to you is, why are you going to analyze both approaches? The essay asks, which do you agree with? You've told us which. So what is the value of talking about the side that you do not agree with? The essay doesn't ask you to do it. So potentially there is no reason for you to do it, and you shouldn't do it. Now, that said, I think that it is very good to include a concession paragraph where you talk about the side that maybe you don't support as much. But there are really specific ways to do this. First of all, you need to address it in your introduction. So you could say that while there is a need for serious academic study, I also believe educators should include entertainment into the methods of learning. This way, it makes sense to us. You're basically telling us, yes, I support this to some degree, but on the whole, I support this. That's one way to do it. If you don't do it like that, and you do it the way you did, then this paragraph really seems rather irrelevant. Now, the other thing that I would mention is I would really like to see these paragraphs reversed. First, we talk about the side that we don't support, and then we talk about the side that we do support. Okay? So that would have made more sense. All right, so that's a little bit about coherence and cohesion. I really do want to talk about development, though. I told you earlier that I thought these weren't really very developed, and I continue to think that. You needed to talk more about both paragraphs, essentially. Firstly, this needed to be about entertainment and not so much interactive learning. So games, maybe videos, maybe role playing, things that provide entertainment, fun videos, fun games in the classroom. That would be appropriate, okay? Talking about those and how effective they are in learning. Now, as for this paragraph, again, I still think that there was a lot more to talk about. Okay, so I want to move on because we still have another essay to get to. So let's just keep going and talk about the enjoyable activity with a child. Society is evolving at the same pace as the development of technology and other scientific advances. This has resulted in changes in the overall lifestyle of every individual, including the cognitive years of the child. In my opinion, educational activities are more potent in the comprehensive growth of a child than reading can offer. Okay, so yes to this last sentence, but no to the previous two. You didn't really rephrase the topic, okay? So all of a sudden you got to the last sentence in your introduction and you brought in this element about reading kind of out of nowhere. So I'd like to see this done a little differently. If you want to start off with society is evolving, you could have said society is evolving at a rapid pace and looking at how to best prepare children for the future. While some believe reading is the best for skills and creativity development, others are in favor of entertaining activities. In my opinion, etc., etc., etc. Okay? That would be a better way of doing this. Let's take a look at your body paragraphs. In contemporary times, a child's education is initiated from an early age compared to previous days. As a result, different kinds of interesting tasks can make the child curious about learning. On the other hand, reading does not help at such times because the little ones cannot comprehend the letters and words from that stage. At that stage would be better. Yeah. Therefore, reading is ineffective when it comes to coaching the child from a primary stage. Furthermore is better here. Activities aid in heightening the various senses of a child. They learn to trust their own instinct and learn from every bit of information they come in contact with. Okay, maybe it would have been better to include a kind of tangible example. What do you mean that they learn to trust their own instinct? Can you give us an example of such an activity? All right, moving on. Every scientific subject needs proper experimentation and various kinds of practical, I don't know what you mean by this. Only mugging from textbooks, what do you mean mugging? Will not help to inculcate that technical knowledge. So a child needs to partake in these organized projects in order to develop empirical insight. Okay. Also, many learners cannot learn from textbooks as they cannot memorize the facts. Try to avoid but. Use yet or however. Yet, when the same data is shown and presented to them through different modes of audio-visual learning aids, it becomes more engrossing for them. Yet, in some cases, activity-based learning and inducing various engaging pedagogical methods can be expensive for parents and school management, as most of these apparatus are for one-time use only. Nonetheless, such projects develop a better rationale among infants and adolescents than just limited reading. To sum up, engaging a child in interesting activities under proper parental supervision builds a bond between the child and parent, develops inquisitiveness, and makes the child self-dependent. Okay, we usually just say independent, so I don't know really why. All right, you had a lot of really nice vocabulary here. There was also a lot of really good grammar here. So I was really quite happy with that. What I would like to see changed in this essay is your paragraphing And I'd also like to see some of the topic development changed. You didn't, okay, you told me they develop empirical insight. Okay. And then what else are they developing? Did you say anything at all about creativity? It didn't feel like it. So another thing that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to use the template a little more faithfully. It's there as a tool to help you stay on target, to stay on topic. And I'm not saying that you have to abide by it like 100%, but try to use it as like a framework, okay? Like here, for example, you said educational activities. The essay is talking about enjoyable activities, so fun things that kids enjoy. Is it better for them to develop skills than reading? And then interesting tasks. And then you started saying about how reading doesn't help do this. Therefore, reading is ineffective. You know what the problem is here, Nikki? There wasn't one central idea. Now, it's okay to bring up reading. I actually think it's effective to do that. But I think it's the way it was done in this paragraph that made the progression of your ideas kind of confusing. And that's what made it difficult to kind of locate a central idea. Let me see. So let's say, for example, we took this out here. Okay, this whole section here. You're talking about different aids. These make a child interested in learning, etc., etc. And then you could have said, another place where activities benefit is in heightening the senses, the various senses of a child. Go into detail about that, okay? And then you can say, maybe more detail than just this, because I felt this was very abstract and we really didn't know what you were talking about. Then you could say, these are skills and areas of development that cannot be tackled by reading alone, partially because children cannot comprehend letters and words, etc. So I had a hard time finding your central idea, but I think that if you had organized this paragraph a little differently, it would have been easier to discover. Okay, and then we get to this paragraph. I wasn't really sure what you're talking about. I mean, I think you're talking about children experimenting and doing like experiments at home. I'm not really sure. I think this is what you meant. Again, there's really nothing about creativity here and how children can develop creativity either from reading or from enjoyable activities. So that I'm not really sure about this paragraph. And then I really have to say that I don't think this paragraph was relevant. This wasn't what you were asked to talk about. You were kind of going off on a tangent here. So avoid this. In fact, you probably know from the template that we don't really recommend 5 paragraphs. We recommend a 4-paragraph structure. So I would have gotten rid of this. And instead, I would have focused on developing these 2 body paragraphs more. Okay, so that really brings us to the end of this correction. What I'd like you to do next is I'd like you to correct these essays based on the suggestions in this video. Then I'd like you to create an error correction list where you write the mistakes and the corrected version next to the mistakes. Add to that every time you get an essay correction back from us. And then the third thing I'd like you to do is, of course, write a new set of essays. Send all 3 things together and we'll continue with your progress. So I want to wish you good luck with it and I'll be waiting for your next set.